Yep, we're back at it again with some more torture. Remember to like the video? For some reason, some of the Pokemon that they named aren't even obtainable in the game. Of course. And for some reason, some of the Pokemon that they named aren't even obtainable. The moveset ChatGPT, does this moveset sound familiar? Well, it should, considering the fact that it's the exact same moveset that Alright, whatever. Not a great mon, but it's probably the worst mon we'll get. So is this some kind of sick joke? I know I said the worst Pokemon to use. Well, to be fair, at least it's got type diversity, right? Well, the moves we got on it. Yeah, that's because it literally just can't learn one of the moves it gave me. So I had to pick the. Of course, this wouldn't be a worst team video. Honestly, it probably would not be. So you remember how I mentioned earlier that some of these Pokemon aren't even obtainable in this game? Cypher for Unknown, which I'll admit is 2. We are allowed to have, in 5, we of course have the usual rule. First I put Unknown in front of my party because seeing what its hidden power was a top. First I put Unknown in my, there's not much else to say here. All I pretty much do is fight all the trainers for experience and EVs and make sure they all pick up the quick. We make it to Roxanne's gym, which just, we make it to Roxanne's gym and just absolutely obliterate. We make it to Roxanne's gym and just absolutely obliterate everything with Sunkern. We make it to Roxanne's gym and just absolutely obliterate everything with Sunkern because of Absorb. And now we are, wow, gosh. We make it to Roxanne's gym, just absolutely obliterate everything with Sunkern because of Absorb. And now our new I then get to Dewford where I do the. I also make sure to pick up the Silph Scarf from that one person in the town because it is very. I also make sure to pick up that Silph Scarf. I attempt to weaken down his Machop with Unknown, but quickly lose. Thankfully, we used a bunch of sand attacks with Farfetch'd earlier, and it kept missing, so we just set up a few. I then make it to escape. We led with Unknown, who I sent out Farfetch'd and am able to KO Grovyle and do about 2/3 damage to. And I'm able to do about 2/3 damage to. I send out Farfetch'd and am able to KO Grovyle and do about 2/3 damage to. I send out Farfetch'd and am able to KO Grovyle and do about 2/3 damage to Slug. I send out Farfetch'd and am able to After fighting all the trainers, we make it to Watson Gym and where I did. After fighting all the trainers, we make it to the Watson. He sends out his final Pokemon Magneton and knock out our. He sends out his final Pokemon Magneton and knockout. We got all the way to her Torkoal. We got all the way to her Torkoal before she finished. But he was not by. On our second winning attempt, we led with Delibird, who was able to knock out the Spinda before Norman sent out his Vigoroth. I go out to Ditto, which went pretty well as we got Norman to use one of his Hyper Potions. After that, we get the HM for Surf, which we will be. After that, we get the HM for Surf, which will be nice to use on Def. After that, we get the HM for Search, which. After that, we get the HM for Surf. After that, we get the HM for Surf. Which. More boring trainer. I never ended up using it enough for me to. The second attempt I did what. We make it to Tantalize's gym, which. Unknown because of all their Pokemon were weak to. I go for chip damage on Xatu while I use Protect and Love Disc. I go for chip damage on the Xatu while I use Protect with Love Disc. Unfortunately, it does I go for chip damage on the. While I'm switching, I transform into the Xatu and they tag team Ditto, so he gets. I transform into the Xatu and they tag team Ditto, so he gets knocked down in that same turn. No, but not before Unknown can. Farfetch'd goes down, but luckily we are able to. Knock out the Lin. We end up really getting. After the first attempt, though, I realized that it would be beneficial to get Farfetch'd to person. Then I got an insanely lucky freeze with Ice Beam on Al. Thankfully, the freeze lasted long enough for me to be able. She sends out her first Banette and I predict a switch. She sends out her She sends out her first Bayonet, and I predict that she'll go for Shadow Ball. She sends out her first Bayonet, and I predict she'll go for Shadow Ball, so I send out... Spinette is really fast. I'm feeling pretty confident about speeding. I then go for her own Shadow Ball, but unfortunately she used Grudge, and I lost all of the power. I then go for her own Shadow Ball, but unfortunately she used Grudge, and I lost all of the power. Thankfully, we still had Feint Attack, which was able to do half. I go for another Aerial Ace, which does over half, and she does... Most attempts would end because I wasn't getting Lucky Confusion luck with Sweet Quiz. I could be here for the next hour telling you about all my failed attempts, but let's just talk about the one. I go out to Unown, and she uses a full restore, but I'm able to get her Waldane. Here was the strat. Lead with Unown, deal damage, Feint, sweep with Delibird, Feint. Wait. If you think the show's over though, you're wrong, because Wallace was actually really tough. Deblade, it also has Blizzard. So not even... He then sends out his Milotic, and I'm able to... He then sends out Milotic. He then sends out... After some Earthquakes and 2 full restores, I'm able to KO his Whiscash with Hyper Beam. After some Earthquakes and 2 more full restores, I'm able to KO his Whiscash with a Hyper Beam. After some Earthquakes and 2 more full restores, I'm able to KO his Whisk. He doesn't last long in battle, but thankfully Delibird was alive. Let me know in the comments if you guys think I could have won at a lower level, or if there's a different strategy.